Hi everyone, we have finally gotten to the last video in this series, part 10, of tier ranking every traditional Breyer horse mold. My name is Erica, aka ECR Horses 1901, and it is time to wrap up this journey. As you may know if you've watched some of the recent parts, I am saving my meta commentary for a separate video, but at the end of this one, I'll let you know what is actually coming next video-wise. But that's enough for now. Let's go ahead and talk about the final 13 molds. Vanner Foal, introduced in 2023, sculpted by Kylie Parks, also known as Remy, from the Rhiannon and Remy set, part of the 2023 Premiere Collection. This is the only model on this mold so far, and for a foal, he is actually pleasing to the eye. Finally! I like the color, and I like what details I can see. This mold is definitely off to a strong start. A tier. Vanner Mare, introduced in 2023, sculpted by Kylie Parks. And here is Rhiannon, a sooty, dappled buckskin Tobiano and Remy's counterpart. Again, a lovely horse, and this is another case where it'll be interesting to see what else they do with this mold. Believe it or not, I actually kinda prefer the foal when it comes to this pair, but I can give her a B tier, closer to B+. Walking Quarter Horse Foal, aka Hawkeye, introduced in 2021, sculpted by Morgan Kilbourne. This mold accompanies the standing quarter horse mare we saw a few videos ago. This is another one of the least cursed foal models, and I love the little tail flick. I think that gives him a lot of personality. You really cannot go wrong with any of the colors that this mold currently comes in either. Another solid A tier. Walking Thoroughbred, aka Carrick, introduced in 2013, sculpted by Susan Carlton Sifton. For a Thoroughbred mold, he's pretty good, not too willowy as we've seen before. I adore a couple of the more exotic colored models, such as, and I totally had to look how to pronounce this because I didn't know, but it was Caipirinha, the Dapple Rose Grey Breyerfest volunteer model from 2016, and most shocking about this one, I actually prefer the matte version, which I know has been the case for very few molds or models across this whole list. I also actually like the Baruti, probably because Gemsbach, which this is made to look like, are relatively horse-shaped. So it's not as off-putting as some of the other models that we have seen in the Wild Animals / Big Cats series. Also, I couldn't help but notice the 2016 one-of-one Breyerfest live auction model really harkens back to Domino the Happy Canyon Trail Horse, which we saw on the San Domingo mold way back. Or not way back, but a few videos ago. I doubt that was intentional, but that was literally the first thing that sprung to my mind when I saw this one. Walking Thoroughbred, B tier. Warmblood Stallion, aka Idacus, introduced in 2009, sculpted by Susan Carlton Sifton. Another mold that's had slight tail variations over the years and which has been used to depict a lot of famous real-life horses. This is another mold I think has a lot of versatility, even if it doesn't necessarily make me say wow or how interesting in any way. We're not going to spend much time here. B tier. Welsh Foal, introduced in 2019, sculpted by Josine Vingerling. Our third non-cursed foal mold in a row in the same video. This is shocking. I'm very fond of this little guy and almost purchased the 2019 Premiere Collection set in which he comes with the Welsh mare that we're going to talk about in just a few moments. Oddly enough, my least favorite color this mold has come in is the Blanket Appaloosa. I can't even pinpoint why exactly, just this model doesn't really do it for me. I do love the leopard version though, which was part of a Breyerfest 2023 live auction set that sold for $11,000. I'm not sure this little guy is S tier, but he is A tier for sure. Welsh mare, introduced in 2019, sculpted by Josine Vingerling. Then we have his counterpart, the Welsh mare. She's fine. When it comes to this set, like with the Vanners, I think the foal fares a little bit better. I do like this mold's very kind face though. It's a soothing balm after some of the faces we have been subjected to in the past. B tier, but it's B+. Western horse, introduced in 1950, sculpted by Chris Hess, from a model by Roger Williams. This was Breyer's very first animal mold. The bridle and the breast collar are part of the mold, whereas the saddle is removable, which you can see here, and it also has these gold metal chains as reins. It being as old of a model or of a mold as it is, you can't really criticize it that much, and some of the colors it's come in over the years have actually been very appealing, such as Glitterati from 2015. This is another mold that was used on clocks and lamps and as a nightlight, which we've seen before with some of the other very old molds. He is still a cool guy. B tier. Western prancing horse, aka Western Prancer, introduced in 1961, sculpted by Chris Hess. Same deal here with the bridle and the reins being part of the mold, and the saddle being removable. 11 years newer than the last mold that we just saw, and you can already see improvements that were made to the body itself. This mold last appeared in 2016 for the Vintage Club as a dapple gray called Lucky, and he's actually been around pretty consistently over the years. Another B tier. Wixom, aka Cedar Farm Wixom, Percheron mare. Introduced in 2001, sculpted by Donna Cheney. This girl is pretty nice, though the body feels, again, I know I said this for other molds, but it just feels a little too hefty. And I know it's a draft horse, but every time I see this one, even in person, I just have to kind of stop for a moment. And not in a great way. That's not to say that there are not some nice aspects to this mold. I like a fair amount of the special or limited edition models, such as Demeter, a 2014 Collectors Club web special, and Puffin, a 2021 model from the Birds of a Feather collection. I just can't get over my initial impression of this girl, unfortunately. C tier. Working cow horse, aka Bobby Joe, introduced in 2015, sculpted by Morgan Kilbourne. I think she looks better in person than in pictures, I will say that right off the bat. The action shot is at least an interesting one, I will also give it that. I think my favorites here are Kendall, the glossy flaxen chestnut flagship horse from 2022, and the 2020 flagship horse, Spectrum, for this really bright rainbow pattern. For a newer mold, this has been a one-of-one Breyerfest live or silent auction horse 6 times, most recently in 2023, this blue roan Appaloosa, which sold for $7,000. Yet another B tier. Zebra, introduced in 2000, sculpted by Christina Lucas Francis. He sure is. Fine as a toy, but I don't think I'd be showing this guy, let's put it that way, although I guess if you're just up against other Breyer zebras, maybe it's not so bad. Naturally, my favorites are some of the most unobtainable models. The glossy black so-called Christmas candy web special from 2019, of which only 12 were made of this color, so yeah. And the one-of-one Breyerfest live auction from the year 2000 of the Fruit Stripe Gum Zebra, because this model is perfect, and RIP Fruit Stripe Gum, which I think was just discontinued like this past week. This sold for $1,125, and I just know it is worth every penny. Unfortunately, a couple of superb special editions do not a good mold make. D tier. And that brings us to our final mold, did you ever think this day would come? Because I don't think I did. And that is Zippo Pine Bar, introduced in 1999, sculpted by Prancer. I want to like this mold more than I do. Now, I am no conformation expert, but it seems like the hindquarters are a bit off, and that throws me every time. And if that's not the structural issue here, something strikes me as funky about this mold that I wish was not the case. I can't even honestly say that I have a favorite, but I feel like that would be a pretty sorry way to end this list. So yes, if I had to, I would take the Glossy Bay Overo Atascadero, which was the Breyer West volunteer model from 2006. I wish I could end on a higher note, but we're gonna go D tier. And that brings us to the final tier tally for every horse out there. So let's go ahead and see what these numbers ended up as. S tier, we did not add anything to this time, so S tier is still at 14 molds. A tier, we're going to end at 38, but technically 39 because there is no picture of the Vanner foal at the bottom, so this should be 39. B tier is also 37, but should be 38 because again, we don't have a little picture of the Vanner mare. C tier is ending with 49 molds. D tier is ending with 27. And there were actually no additions to F tier today, which is good, and so we are ending with 19. Okay, so that wraps up this series, although, again, not quite, because I will be doing my reflections video in a little bit. I actually think that my next video, which could be next week, could be a week after that, is going to be a slight deviation. Just, I want to do a video on my thoughts on the upcoming 2024 models that have been announced, and also the Breyerfest models that have been announced for this year, at least up until this point. So I want to kind of strike that iron while it's hot, not wait, another month or so to get that video out. So that's what the next one coming up is going to be, and then the video after that will be coming back to this list and taking another look at things, because I can already tell you that there are some decisions that I made that I have different opinions about than when I originally made them. And yeah, just some interesting observations that I have made during my time examining all of these molds and all of these models so closely. So I think it's actually going to be a really interesting video when we get there. So I just want to thank those of you, especially those of you that have made a point to go back and watch every video, and especially those of you that have commented on all or almost all the videos, because I really do appreciate it. And so please feel free to like, subscribe, and yes, even add your comments if you have not already. So thank you for hanging in there, and I will see you next time.